We have some breaking news here on the Kansas City Chiefs Report by Chat Sports. I'm your host, Harrison Graham. Kansas City has cut not one, but both of their starting offensive tackles. Eric Fisher, Mitchell Schwartz have been released by the Kansas City Chiefs. We'll start with Fisher here, then get to Schwartz in just a second. They have cut bait with their left tackle, and I've mentioned this before that this was a possibility. Cutting Eric Fisher saves Kansas City roughly $12 million against the cap. And when you factor in that he tore his Achilles in the AFC Championship game, and even though the Chiefs acted like he might be back by August, you had to figure in that this could be a possibility with how much money Kansas City could save. And once the NFL salary cap number became official on Wednesday of $182.5 million, and the Chiefs sat $21 million over the cap, cutting Eric Fisher really was inevitable at that point in time. And as much as it sucks to see him go, he is no longer with the Chiefs. Neither is Mitchell Schwartz, who has been cut loose as well. Maybe this one's a little bit more surprising because less of a cap savings, and obviously when he's healthy, he's a borderline All-Pro. But they have cut Mitchell Schwartz. This will save Kansas City an additional $6.3 million, so in total over $18 million. And like Eric Fisher, there were injury question marks moving forward with Mitchell Schwartz. The back was a major problem last year. He had dealt with a knee issue as well, so both guys entering the last year of their contracts, they become cap cut casualties for Kansas City as they have to get under the salary cap number by free agency, which is less than a week away. What is your one-word reaction to the Chiefs cutting both Eric Fisher and Mitchell Schwartz? I want to hear it from you guys. One-word reaction to Kansas City cutting not one, but both of their offensive tackles. My one word, it's business. It's business, especially this year. The term business will be used more often than ever in this league because we heard the reports. Once we saw the cap, we knew this was very much a possibility because the cap went down. Players are going to get cut. Good players are going to get let go by good teams. It just happened with Kansas City, right? You're talking about two cornerstone offensive linemen when they're both healthy, especially with the guy like Mitchell Schwartz, who was an All-Pro just a couple of years ago. They've both been cut. Yeah, because the injury concerns are part of it, but even if not, there was a good chance at least Eric Fisher was getting cut. I told you guys that on a show on this show earlier in the month that both these guys, or at least one of them, could get cut. The team saves over $18 million in cap space, and now they're roughly $3 million under the cap threshold, which means they're pretty close. They may not even have to cut any more players, but cutting both tackles was just a necessity by this team. Maybe they renegotiate and bring those guys back down the road. I don't see that happening personally with the injury concerns. This feels like goodbye to two guys who have been a part of this organization for quite some time. Eric Fisher certainly treated it that way. He posted on Instagram after he got the news from Kansas City. Catch and release, time to complete the second part of the play call. At the time, I thought the catch was part of the play that was going to be the hard part. 6 months later, that thought has changed. I have been released. Rewind 8 years, and there will be a whole lot of memories that'll be blessed to take with me from my time in Kansas City. I'll never forget landing at the MCI, the airport in Kansas City, the day after the draft and smiling because it felt like home. Classy response to a classy player, two all-pro human beings, and two excellent football players as well. Let's show the guys some love, man. This is a tough business. It's going to be tough this week. You're seeing it around the NFL. Type thanks in the comments section for Mitchell Schwartz and Eric Fisher. These have been two excellent offensive linemen for this team, two great ambassadors for the Chiefs and for the city of Kansas City. So let's get some thanks flowing in the comments section. Now, today's show is presented by BetUS. Guys, it is March, which means Conference Championship Week is already here in college basketball, and the NCAA tournament is right around the corner. Get in on March Madness at chatsports.com/ChiefsBet. Use our promo code Chiefs125. And if you place a bet on a conference tournament game or a March Madness game, once that gets going, we can hook you guys up with a free Chiefs jersey. This deal applies for new customers only, so if you've already gotten going with BetUS, this does not apply for you. But if you haven't, get going, and then once you do all those steps, email us, chiefs@chatsports.com to redeem. We can hook you you guys up with a brand new Patrick Mahomes jersey. He ain't going anywhere, I can promise you that. Get going, chatsports.com/ChiefsBet. Place a bet on March Madness, and then email us, chiefs@chatsports.com. We will hook you guys up with a brand new Chiefs jersey. So let's see where the depth chart sits now, right? You lose both your tackles. I'll plug in Mike Remmers, who was a disaster in the Super Bowl, but he's also a free agent, so I'm not exactly confident he'll be back, and I'm definitely not confident that he will or should be your left tackle. How about Lucas Niang at right tackle? We'll talk more about him in a minute. I plug him in there. I think that's very much a possibility. He was a really good college player at right tackle. We'll see if that becomes his spot on this offensive line, but there's major question marks everywhere. Both your centers are free agents in Austin Ryder and Daniel Kilgore. Kelechi Osemele is a free agent. Laurent Duvernay-Tardif is expected to come back after opting out last year, as is Lucas Niang. But how are those guys after a year off of football? Hopefully they're good players, but we don't really know. It's not like LDT is this young, spry 26-year-old. Obviously, Lucas Niang's a young player, but it'll basically be his rookie season next year after opting out in 2020. Ideally, LDT plugs in at right guard and is just like he was before, and Lucas Niang plugs in at right tackle and you're good to go, but you're not just going to replace Eric Fisher and Mitchell Schwartz. That is just not going to happen. Now, in the past, been a little harsh on Fisher, but this is still a quality starting left tackle in the NFL, which there are not a ton of those guys out there. So to replace his production, that's going to be pretty tough, especially at left tackle. Mitchell Schwartz, he's been one of the premier right tackles for the better part of 5 to 7 years at this point. He's been really, really good for Kansas City, been an all-pro at one point in his career. You're definitely not going to replace what he brought to the table when he was fully healthy. But again, this is business. This is what it's going to be this year in the NFL with the salary cap going down. Who will be the Chiefs starting tackles next year? Both left and right. Predict it for me. I'll predict right now Lucas Niang's your starting right tackle, and that your starting left tackle is not currently on the roster. That is my prediction. I don't think they have a guy on their roster that can play left tackle at this point. Give me Lucas Niang at right tackle. So that's one guy. Predict the left tackle and the right tackle in the comments. This is why you subscribe to the Kansas City Chiefs Report, because we're getting out the latest news and rumors, updates every single day. Guys, free agency, it's going to be hectic this year with all the cuts, the contracts, all kinds of stuff going on. Can't wait to see what Brett Veach and Andy Reid pull off this offseason. Get subscribed to the channel. Don't miss any of it. And yes, turn on that notification bell so you get breaking news videos just like this one. I mentioned Lucas Niang. Don't forget about him. I think we forgot about this guy a little bit because he opted out, and we've never actually seen him play in the NFL. Massive kid, 6'7", about 310 pounds, just 22 years old. Started 27 games in college. He was an all Big 12 type of guy. I think he can be your right tackle of the future. Did have some injury concerns coming out of TCU, but you plug him in at right tackle. I think you can get by with that this year. Left tackle becomes the priority. You got to figure out left tackle. That is the next step for Brett Veach, for this staff to say, okay, how do we address the left tackle position now that Erich Fisher is gone? I think the most likely path is going to be the draft. And there is a deep offensive tackle class this year, which is good. I'm not going to put Penei Sewell and Rashawn Slater up here because they're just too unrealistic. The Chiefs are picking at 31, moving up into the top 10 or 12, which is what it's going to take. That's going to cost a lot. Maybe you move up for Christian Darrisaw, who's mid-teens, early 20s type of target. Tevin Jenkins could be there at 31. So could Samuel Cosme, Liam Eichenberg, Alex Leatherwood. I think all those guys could be in play at number 31 overall. There's even a few more guys that maybe you trade down into the second round and select. This is a deep offensive tackle draft class, and I think with the cap situation, the draft might be your most realistic path to getting your next left tackle of the future. I want to ask you guys this as well. Will Kansas City cut any more players? Now, about $3 million above the tax line right now, so they don't have to. They could extend Tyrann Mathieu, restructure some deals, and be well under the cap, but I wouldn't rule it out. Type Y for yes, type N for no. If you want to overachieve, predict who Kansas City could cut in the comments. I'm going to say my N for no, but don't rule it out. It's going to be a brutal week in the NFL. One more salute to Eric Fisher and to Mitchell Schwartz. These guys have been all class all the time. They were a critical part of the Super Bowl team for Super Bowl 54. Eric Fisher and Mitchell Schwartz, I salute you. Good luck with the remaining part of their careers. Who knows? Maybe they'll play with Kansas City at some point in the future, but they are gone. They have been cut loose. We'll see what happens with those guys, and we'll see what the Chiefs do in free agency, so keep it tuned here to the Chiefs Report.